We can go ahead in about 10 seconds. All right, welcome to the Fans in Blue podcast. Special guest today is Boria Majumdar, the legendary Indian cricket historian, co-authored Sachin Tendulkar's autobiography, "Playing in My Way," and kind of a big personality when it comes to cricket. Also wrote a very, very large and extensive history of Indian cricket. So with that, Boria, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for supporting cricket from all parts of the world.
Fantastic. No, we love the game, and we're actually huge Test cricket fans. So that's sort of the biggest.
Oh, so you're a disappearing species.
That's right, exactly. And we have a question for you for that later on as well. Joining me are my usual sort of colleagues, Kushal and Devendra, different parts of the world, but passion stays the same nonetheless. I want to get your thoughts, Boria, and I'll start off before pushing on to the other guys. How big was that moment? The stone wall that Ashwin and Vihari followed, which followed a unbelievable counter-attacking knock by Pant, and Pujara being his stoic best. How big was that whole performance coming away from that game with a draw?
See, I would say, if you can hear me, I mean, there's perhaps a bit of a delay with the internet, but I would say it's right up there in the annals of Indian cricket history. I mean, having studied the game for the last 3 decades and more, I would say it was right up there in the annals of Indian cricket history. I mean, the 97 by Rishabh Pant will perhaps be equated with G.R. Vishwanath's 97 in 1975 against the West Indies. It's that good. It was Rishabh Pant who turned it around. I mean, if you went and spoke to anyone at the end of day 4 and said, oh, you know what, this is what will happen, and people would laugh at you. Whether it's a Ricky Ponting saying 200 all out, whether it's somebody else saying 4-0. So we've heard a lot. And for this, see, I have seen better Indian teams, in the sense this Indian team is itself better with Virat and the rest of the boys coming in, but I've not seen a tougher Indian team. Now that for me is tremendously important, because sport is about resilience. Sport is about standing up and being counted. And this for me, I mean, Ravichandran Ashwin taking those body blows were badges of honor. When he stood in front of the mirror that night, I mean, those were badges of honor for the sake of his country. To be able to save that particular match against the background of racism, against the background of Siraj being called a brown dog, against the background of being written off, against the background of being all out for 36 in one test match and then winning the next one, which some people said fluke and aberration, is clearly a statement that actually tells you that Adelaide was an aberration and Melbourne and Sydney are the norm. Now, for me, that is incredibly important. That Indian cricket, whether you won or lost, or whatever happened there, it's far bigger than a win that everyone will tell you. But more importantly, you earned respect around the world. And as a sports person, if you add to your legacy by earning respect, that whatever Hanuma Vihari got, will always stand Hanuma Vihari as the one who stood up in Australia against a premier Australian bowling attack and managed to thwart that attack for 4 hours. Take that. I mean, that's what sport is all about. That's what staring in your face is all about and saying, oh, you know what, we won't give up. Loved it.
That's an unbelievable summary, Boria. And before moving on to my colleagues, the one thing I would say and is that there were tears in my eyes the next day when I was reliving that. And you were spot on in sport being all about resilience and the fight. On that note, what do you think was the single biggest motivating factor for the side to put up that performance? Because in times past, the same players, maybe with the exception of a couple of the new seamers and Gill, it's the same players who've been part of the team for the last 2 to 4 years. What was the difference here? What brought about that motivation that made them play that like that?
See, very good question, but there's not one motivation, but several things came together. One, being written off after Adelaide got everyone together. Virat Kohli leaving, This is Virat Kohli's team. The rest of the boys are a bunch of fools. I mean, come on, each of them are playing for India. They're high performance sportsmen with ego and with pride, a sense of pride. You guys, for example, in your profession, if somebody tells you, oh, you know what, except this one fellow who's gone, the rest of the boys are bogus. And you will like, what? I mean, each person deep down inside has this innate sense of pride. Ravi Ashwin, achiever. Cheteshwar Pujara, achiever. Shubman Gill, absolutely knows that he's good. Ajinkya Rahane, a top player, all of a sudden being, I mean, he'll be steamrolled. Who the hell are you, yaar? I mean, we'll all sort of, you guys are no matter, 3.5 days game done. So it hurt where it hurt. And the thing that happened was after Adelaide, there was a complete transformation in the mentality of the team, and it was about ego and pride. Number two, this racist row united the team in a manner that we've hardly seen. I mean, each of the boys have their own experience to narrate, whether it is Siraj, whether it is Ajinkya, whether it is Ashwin, anyone, any of these boys. And all of a sudden it was together. I can tell you at the start of day 5, Ravi Shastri addressed the team and everyone takes a pot shot at Ravi and, his favorite whipping boy of everybody. But that's fine. But the good part about Ravi Shastri is situations like this. All he told the boys, and he said this at lunch also, forget the scoreboard, forget the runs, forget the number of overs, forget everything. And all you will do is you will play ball by ball. Each ball is a victory. You bat out one ball, you are closer to your destination. One ball. So everyone will do that. And Ravichandran Ashwin was standing 2 hours before he went out to bat. Why? Because he was having back spasms. So if he sat down, he wouldn't be able to stand up. So it was all about braving pain and going out and making a statement. And each one wanted to outdo the pain barrier. Each one wanted to outdo the pain threshold. And all of this came together in creating a classic that will forever be remembered in the annals of Indian cricket as a turning point. Legacies were scripted, lores were written. I will never forget that test match.
Unbelievable. I'm going to go to Kushal next, but I will say, I don't think most of us actually remember how much Bihari got. I think it was 23 or 27, but at the end of the day, those are probably 23 far more precious runs than he would have scored in his life. Kushal, I'm going to go to you. You probably had a follow up to what Boria mentioned.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, just like you and Boria, I mean, it was an unbelievable achievement by our boys. My question to you is, now that we've seen this resilience, especially after, like you mentioned, Adelaide, 36 all out, when that happened, in our internal, fans in blue, we have a chat that we keep going on about. I kept posing the question, like, where's the pride? How, like when you're being steamrolled, where's the pride? And these guys really stood up and showed it. Now, my question is, when can we start seeing the consistency in this sort of, I'm not saying that we need to have such a high performance, but just to start seeing this consistency where we're not constantly viewed as, oh, soft players, or they only perform at home. What do you think is going to change the perception
I think it has changed already. I mean, if you see the 2018 series, Australia made such a hue and cry about David Warner and Steve Smith not there, and as if that was the reason for the loss. Now, if they win against India in Brisbane, they are not playing India. They are playing not even India A. They are playing India B. 8 of your players are not there. Now, will you say that, oh, you know what? We are actually playing. Think about it. Virat, Ishant, Shami, Umesh, Jaddu, Vihari. The list goes on and on and on. I mean, each of these are first team players. You can pitch them against the team that will play. You have Mohammad Siraj. If Bumrah doesn't play, highly unlikely he will. Mohammad Siraj in his third test will lead the attack. Shardul's played one test. Navdeep's played one test. That's your attack in Australia. You're still standing up. Imagine Australia doesn't have Mitch Stark, Josh Hazelwood, Pat Cummins in that attack. Now the whole country would come crashing down, man. And they would say, "Arey, what's happening?" I mean, everybody would like, "Oh, this is not, come on, come on." So I think the perception has already changed. Where they need to be consistent is in white ball cricket in knockout games. That's where their legacies will become fundamentally different, because you've made semifinals consistently. You now win a World Cup, whether it is this year in India or next year in Australia and the following year in India. The moment you win one big tournament or you make the final of the World Test Championship and win that, in England at Lords, the whole game changes. Because at this point, when you say, oh, this team is the best team, question is, have you won a World Cup? Have you won a major championship? And it is important that they do, because in tennis you might win many super 500s or thousands or whatever. If you do not win grand slams, you don't qualify. If you don't win majors, you don't qualify. In football, a Leo Messi will forever be second to Maradona because Maradona won a World Cup. So that's the last threshold for this particular team. They have demoed what they can do in test cricket. They've demoed what they can do in one-day cricket, in T20 cricket. Think of the 2019 World Cup. India tops the pool, takes out Australia, takes out Pakistan, takes out whatever. But when it mattered in that game against New Zealand, 1 hour of bad cricket. Now, that 1 hour of bad cricket has tarnished legacies. So you've got to undo that by winning one major championship soon. Virat Kohli has to elevate himself. He's a great, a modern day great who will go down in history as one of the greatest batsmen. In white ball, perhaps the greatest batsman, alongside Sachin Tendulkar. Maybe even a better chaser than anyone that history has seen. But as captain, you've got to win a major championship. So that's the last remaining straw in that cog. If you fulfill that, I think you're done.
So do you think that if we win the World Test Championship, say we make it to the final, we play Australia because it's likely that they'll be there, and we win, do you think that would change the perception of our team?
100%.
Or
if you win the World Test Championship, debate rested, because then our problem is, the problem with Indian fans is also impatience. One bad loss, oh, everything's gone 4-0. One good win, oh, everything's great. Now India is the best team in the world. Neither is true.
right.
And this is the classic is with Rishabh Pant and Riddhiman Saha. The perception is Rishabh Pant can't keep, Riddhiman Saha can't bat. Stupid. Rishabh Pant has got several catches and stumpings. Riddhiman Saha has got a couple of test hundreds. Test hundreds don't come easy. I mean, test hundreds are worth their value in gold, for God's sake. How many people in India have got test hundreds? Chetan Chauhan has never got a test hundred in his life. Chetanji is not there anymore with us. 97 is what we celebrate. Now, Riddhiman Saha has got multiple test hundreds. And the perception is he can't hold his bat. So the problem with us is we build these narratives. So if we do make the finals of the World Test Championship and win it, see, if we lose the final, even that's a statement, because you've made the final of a format and you've got to think a few things. Australians did not have the same lockdown. Australians were able to at least run in the 6-7 months that we were in lockdown.
Yeah.
All of that matters with the body, the soft tissue. When you suddenly get into a rigor like this, why is it, do you think, that the Indians are getting injured and the Australians aren't? Because that 6-7 month period will now have impact, and it will impact the body. So there are and if you still make the final with all of these things at the background, it's an incredible achievement.
But
I would say that
wouldn't the perception be that this World Test Championship is kind of diluted, since all the teams haven't played the 6 series, the 3 away, 3 at home, and seems like we are always trying to fight perception as Indian fans, for our team. I feel like, there was an opportunity missed. I keep saying it, in our podcast, is when we had those 3 tours back to back in 2018, where we were in South Africa, we were in England, and then we were in Australia. I feel like had we been able to, win those 3 tours, no one would ever have questioned us, because South Africa had a top team then. They had AB de Villiers. England was a top team, and then we beat Australia in Australia first time. So that I feel like was a missed opportunity. And we are constantly trying to fight that perception, especially.
Perception is a weird game. If you keep fighting perception, you will never win. Take Saurav Ganguly. I mean, this whole issue of conflict of interest is a classic perception example. Now, what is conflict of interest? What is actually conflict of interest? For me, conflict of interest is N. Srinivasan protecting Mahendra Singh Dhoni after the 8 defeats in 2011-12 as captain of India. Good, bad, I'm not getting into it. It was a good call, obviously good call. Why? Because Mahendra Singh Dhoni then won you the ICC Champions Trophy, then stayed on for another 4 years. The legacy was scripted. That's a different game. Perception? No, this is reality. Reality is the board president uses his constitutional provision to tell the selection committee, no, you can't make this change. Mohinder Ramannath is no longer a selector. That same man is an employee with his company and leader of his franchise. Conflict of interest. Clear case. Good, bad, I am not a moral judge here. Number two, in Saurav Ganguly's case, now Saurav Ganguly's case, he was the mentor of the Delhi Capitals. Is Shreyas Iyer part of the Indian test team? No. Did Saurav Ganguly influence team selection in any way? Any selector can come and say, because Saurav Ganguly is board president, so-and-so from Delhi Capitals have made this Indian team? No. Perception? Conflict of interest. Reality? No conflict of interest. So let's not fight perception. Perception is Steve Smith is a cheat. That last example was one of, yes, unsportsmanlike conduct. Cheat? No. But Steve Smith will forever fight that, because now whatever he does, because of Sandpaper Gate and because of brain fade, will be labeled as, oh, you know what, this guy is a cheat. This incident was not that of a cheat. It was a fool. Somebody who went and scruffed it and added to his negative legacy, which was unsportsmanlike at best. Not cheating, not cheating. So let's not fight perception. If we keep fighting perception, and that's not our job. What is our job? Our job is to celebrate this team when they do well. Our job is to constructively criticize them if they do badly. Our job is to stand up against things like racism when such things happen. And our job is to actually strengthen Indian cricket or world cricket in every way possible. Perception, let perception be there. And where does perception form? Social media. Social media is relevant nuisance, nothing more. Leave it at that. Well Don't said. Take social media too seriously, because 140 characters cannot define our lives.
Keyboard warriors. I love that, Boria. And before going to Devendra, one interesting tidbit, which I don't know if you guys have sort of picked up on in India, the coverage of Steve Smith scruffing the Pant's guard was actually on Willow TV, which is the broadcaster for cricket in the US. And the reason we saw that in the US is because Willow doesn't have the rights to Fox's analysis. So when Hussey gives his analysis, like the equivalent of what they do for Third Man at Sky Sport, in Willow, we see a blank view of the pitch. And that's the moment when Steve Smith went and scruffed the pitch. So it was only viewers in America who saw it, and somebody had the foresight to take that video and post it on Twitter. So that's just a little bit of context around that. I don't think most people in India have seen that or know about that. But Devendra, I'm going to go to you now next.
By the way, they've come up with a new footage which protects Steve Smith in a way, defends him in a way that there was no malice intended there. Nevertheless, getting back to, I have one question for you, Boria. Firstly, thanks a lot for making it. The question is very simple. How big a role do you think Ajinkya Rahane has had in the reformation of the side? The way we've come back after losing the first test, after losing Virat Kohli, the morale would have been down in the public eye, at least. How big a role do you think? How well has he managed? And what's your thought on that?
Massive role. I mean, think if this was actually 3 down, Ajinkya Rahane would be taken to the cleaners, dumped in the dustbin, forgotten, closed, shunted out. His own career would be on the lines. That, he's past his prime, time to move on, not good enough. So think what was at stake for him. His life was at stake. What he's done over the last 10 years was at stake. 36 all out. The context is that of a team that is gone, written off, humiliated, insulted. Now, if they lose Brisbane, you and I will say, okay, 8 players not there, but what a series. Now legacies have been completely redefined. The contours have been redefined. The parameters are different. Now they will be judged differently by history. But after Adelaide, the context was now this Indian side is down in the dumps, they're on the floor, let's trample them. And 4-0 comments, the 4-0 brigade from the world over, writing people off.
Michael Vaughan.
So everyone, not only Michael Vaughan, there were a lot of people across the world. So Ajinkya Rahane was battling, as I said, ego and pride as a sports person. Now, you know what? You don't get runs, that's fine. If I take your dignity away, if I take your respect away, then who are you? You are no one. And as a sports person, that I think is the most important badge of honor that anyone can flaunt, that I played for India, I played with credibility. His credibility was at stake. So to be able to turn things around from there with the kind of resilience he has shown with that 100, absolutely incredible. And you don't need to, I mean, he's a different character than Virat Kohli. You don't need to shout or scream. Each one is his own. Now, anyone who then says, again, I said impatience. Moment that happened, people were like, Ajinkya Rahane should be captain. No, this is still Virat Kohli's team. It is Ajinkya Rahane who will still be deputy. There is nothing that Virat Kohli has done to say this, that, oh, this is Ajinkya Rahane. No, it is not Ajinkya Rahane's team. This is still Virat Kohli's team. And that's how, for me, it is terrific to see Rohit back. Terrific to see this leadership group forming, Ajinkya Rahane, Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, Ravichandran Ashwin. That's what is the core of this team, right? So let's not jump the gun. And again, from castigating Ajinkya Rahane to making him the captain now, both are wrong. This was a tremendous performance. Celebrate that, but stop short of saying that this is Ajinkya Rahane's team and not Virat Kohli's team.
Just one last bit here. Do you reckon losing Virat Kohli was actually a blessing in disguise to bring out the true character of the team, the way we've performed? And you've seen a gritty performance by the Indian team, especially in the last test, which was phenomenal. Everybody wrote us off. I mean, we were supposed to be all out before lunch, and this performance. Do you think again it's Rahane's leadership that's gelled well with the team? Someone who's not as authoritative in his body language probably goes well with the team?
That's basically saying that Virat Kohli, two things. Virat Kohli is a bad captain, wouldn't have been able to turn it around. Number two, that the world's best batsman's contribution to this side doesn't matter. I don't think both are correct. I mean, I would say, that would be disrespecting Virat Kohli's contribution to this team. 2018, it was him who won us the series. 2018 England, you would be 5-0 had Virat Kohli not stood up in the manner that he did. The number of ODI series you've won, even this year, to be able to turn it around. I mean, what makes you think that, India was 2-0 down, written off, even in the white ball series? People said India will not win a single game in Australia. Who turned it around? Virat Kohli did. Who turned the whole game around in the T20s and in the ODIs? Virat Kohli did. So to say that Virat wouldn't be able to turn it around, I don't think is right. Number two, for example, that Sydney chase. Imagine you've actually got Virat Kohli walking out to bat. Then what happens? That Rishabh Pant's 97, add Virat Kohli to that lineup. Then you're talking winning. Virat Kohli there, staring people in their face and giving it back. You would win that test match. So Virat is a once in a generation performer. And I think we should celebrate the fact that he's Indian and we will see him bat for our tricolour for the next 8 years.
Boria, just before we move on to the next section, I just wanted to push you on one aspect of this, which is, when Kushal asked you the question and I asked you the question, sort of why do you think this has happened? And I think I completely agree with your answer. It's an amalgamation of many different circumstantial things that have led to this much motivation from the players, and as a result we're seeing two amazing results in the last two test matches. The one point I do want to push you on, though, related to Kushal's question, is I guess I agree, in order to get that respect you have to win a World Test Championship or you've got to win a white ball tournament. But speaking test cricket alone, why is it that you don't see this kind of resilience always when India plays overseas? Because you have the players, you have the clearly they've got the grit somewhere, whether it's deep down inside or buried, they have it and they've shown it. Why is it that there's not this much consistency in being able to fight out tough draws or put together like gritty wins like MCG and the SCG? Like, why does that not happen more often?
Abhinav Bindra is perhaps one of your best ever athletes. He has participated in 2000 or so competitions in his life and has won 180. Will you say he's one of the best, or will you say he's not? And will you say he's not consistent? Roger Federer has won 20 Grand Slams and he has participated in 100, more than 100 now, 20 years, 22, 23 years. Rafa Nadal, same. Novak Djokovic, same. So it's 1 in 5. Sachin Tendulkar has 51 hundreds, right? And 49. And he has played 200 test matches. So it's what? 350 odd innings. Now it's what? 1 in 6. Is he consistent? Is he not consistent? This is sport. How many times, except a Usain Bolt, who has won all the Olympic gold medals, how many times, you will win 1 in 3, 1 in 4, and that's when you are one of the most consistent players or one of the most consistent teams. I think this team has done enough. You have also to believe that the team you are playing against has 4 bowlers who are all at their peak. And by the way, this is not one bowler 500 wickets and the rest of the bowlers 100 wickets. Here there's one bowler with 400 and the rest of the bowlers with 250. Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins, and Lyon with 400 and the others with 250 wickets each. So you're playing a premier bowling attack in their backyard at the top of their game. I think this whole debate about consistency is overrated. In sport, or as I said, I think in my book, and again, this is my personal view, these guys have shown a kind of character that they can forever be proud of. And this is a team that can talk to their grandchildren about what they've achieved in 2018 and 2021.
Fantastic. We can move on to the next section, which is, I want to get your thoughts on the whole racism row, some of the sledging. Pretty much everyone who saw that test match has, a colorful view on whatever happened. You're closer to everything than we are as fans. Starting with the racism situation, it's clearly a problem. I've spoken to many of my Australian friends who are big cricket fans. They all acknowledge it's a problem. Ed Cowan, who's one of the more articulate Australian ex-cricketers, has come out and said that on Cricinfo as well, that Australians like to pretend that there's no racist problem. I guess, what is your view on everything that happened? How proud are you of Siraj for standing up for himself? And, what is the truth, or what is the reality in what happened there?
The truth is he was abused. The truth is he stood up. The truth is fans were abused. And the truth is fans are also now coming out to stand up. The truth is Australia is not alone. The truth is India has also been part of the story. People in my city, for example, in Kolkata, in a Sunday football game, any game, if you're an African footballer is playing, we will call him Kalu. We will call him Kalua. We'll say these things. The truth is Dhanraj Pillai, when he started his career, people would say, Kale ko pakad, kale ko pakad, kale ko pakad. The truth is racism is a virus for which we've not had a vaccine for the last 300, 400 years. That's the truth. And the truth is, unless there is a collective movement against this racial vilification or profiling in the sporting arena across the world, you will not have this vaccine. So this is a collective movement that is needed right now, right here. So that is the truth. The truth is, from day one, racist chants were going on, Kari Manchar, etc., brown dog, big monkey, black this, and everyone should speak out. But how do you snap it off? You will be able to break the chain only if you move away beyond tokenism. At this point, what happens? Now, if I am a racist, I've hurled racist insults at someone. At best, what will happen to me? I will be escorted out of the ground and asked to pay a certain fine. Worst, I will be suspended for maximum 6 months. How does that even impact me? Firstly, 6 months, there is no game. I will again turn up 1 year later and be an idiot like the way, the people are. I will go to another stadium in another city if I have the money and make a complete nuisance of myself again. This is all tokenism. Now, if I abuse you on the streets of Melbourne and hurl racist insults, I can be pulled up and penalized according to law. I can be charged. But if it comes to the sporting arena, I can't be charged unless it is demonstrated that I was inciting violence. Why? If anyone can be charged on the streets for racist abuse, he or she can be charged in the stadium in the same city for racist abuse. So far, New South Wales Police, Cricket Australia, International Cricket Council, everyone, BCCI, all of these people have resorted to tokenism. So unless it is concrete action, I don't see this going away. And that is why I think everyone who's been impacted by it should speak up, because that's when the authorities will be empowered and emboldened to take a stand which will reverberate around the world, and we can snap up against this, snap up this evil. For one Michael Holding, you will have 6 drunken idiots. You will always have. Now, how do you counter that? You counter that by moving beyond tokenism. And I feel extremely strongly about it. I've written about it. I've spoken about it. As long as, see, each of us have failed racial profiling. When I was in Oxford, I used to travel to British Library for my work, didn't have that much money. When I would come back from London late at night, walk that underpass between Marble Arch and, cross the to Hyde Park to take a bus to Oxford. You mean to say I wasn't racially profiled by people? Of course I was. Did I have the guts to speak out? No. My whole thing was, let me just get back to my college. So each of us have had our own experiences. Each of us have grown over time. But this is the time to speak out, because if we don't, this is not going away.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything further to add on this racism, Rao. I think we've hit the nail on the head. And
Devendra?
like he said, speak up, and that's what's needed at this moment. So,
no, I think you hit the nail on the head as well. I mean, it is an issue around the world, and I think you're right as well that it's possibly an issue in India, or it is an issue in India and needs to be addressed there as well. Moving on then to the second part of sort of this particular section, which is, let's start with Tim Payne. His comments from behind the wicket were, in my opinion, there's one word used which could have been avoided. The general sort of view from a lot of Indian cricket fans was his arrogance came through, and perhaps, it wasn't taken in good taste. Everyone understands what he was trying to do. He was trying to throw Ashwin off his game, by saying that, at least my teammates like me. He'd give Ashwin something to think about, and instead of focusing on the cricket. What's your opinion on where do you draw the line between banter and sledging? I think there's quite a difference, to be honest. I mean, we all play cricket, and in club cricket, things can get even worse since there are no stump mics. But where do you draw the line, and what was your view on Payne's comments?
Manas Labuschagne was banter. Tim Payne wasn't. Virat or Sachin was banter to Shubman Gill. That was banter, and that will forever be there. Tim Payne wasn't banter. Tim Payne was in bad taste. But you know what? If Tim Payne, I mean, I don't know how many of you know Ravichandran and Ashwin closely, or for that matter, some of these guys closely. You try something with this. This is actually Virat's new India. It'll be counterproductive. They don't give a damn. I mean, Tim Payne tries to say something. Ashwin said, "I'll finish you off in India." I wouldn't be surprised if Ashwin said, "You won't even come to India because you don't deserve a spot in your team." Because
right.
it's the truth, right? And Tim Payne will know that truth better than anyone, that when Sandpaper Gate happened, he became the captain of Australia because he was a statesman, not a great cricket player. Today, Alex Carey is perhaps a better wicketkeeper batsman than Tim Payne is. He's continuing because of whatever happened, the context of Australian cricket. Is he deserving in his place as a cricketer only? No. So he will know that better than anyone. So to take Ravi Ashwin on, who's got 380 test wickets and multiple hundreds, is foolish. You are exposing your vulnerability more than anything. You're exposing your desperation more than anything. And you know what? I would also say that desperation resulted in those dropped catches. So frankly, as Sunil Gavaskar said, focus on leading the side and focus on catching rather than talking, because you do that, you lose the match, you lose the plot. And that's what happened with Tim Payne. So good to see him apologize, good to see him step up, but he lost the plot there. India didn't. So you want to do that, you're welcome.
Yeah, I think he felt the pressure of the moment, more,
Of course.
and that's
Of
what
course.
came out in the words. And I don't think anyone really picked up on this, but he even embellished his own stats because he said, "Well, when I come to India, I average 60 there." Actually, I looked it up; he only averages 45. So, I just leave it at that. Let's
Yeah,
not talk about him.
that's totally fair. I mean, the one thing I would say is that there was also a moment where Warner and Wade were just trying to do a bit of play acting and charge against Ashwin, or it was Warner egging on Wade. I think
that particular incident, it really pissed me off when I was watching it because he charged at Ashwin as if he was going to like fight him, and then Warner stopped him, and then he fell and acted as if he was hurt because Ashwin was changing the chest guard right every over, and so he was pointing at the at his at the pavilion saying, "Send someone, I'm hurt, I'm hurt." Like that sort of stuff. That's not banter. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that pisses, I think, fans off when they're watching the Australian team.
That's the point that I'm trying to say this, that do you think if something happens to us, we are not going to take things lying down? It will only add to my resolve. You want doing this on the field? Fine, I will play 100 extra balls. That's it. And Ravi Ashwin, I can't tell you. I mean, I know Ravi Ashwin fairly well. You try this nonsense with Virat, you try it with any of these guys, you won't win. You are actually negating your chances of winning the test match by trying these silly antics. And look at what happened. Tim Payne has made a fool in front of the world. He's had to come out and apologize as the skipper of Australia in the middle of a test tour saying, "Oh, I was out of line." So in your home backyard, you face the pressure more than the Indians. You go into Brisbane under incredible pressure. Look, if India loses in Brisbane, what happens? Nothing. If Australia doesn't win in Brisbane, what happens? Legacies are gone. Tim Payne is on the line. So who is under more pressure? India? No. Australia? 200% yes. The media trying to say breach of protocol. The media trying to say no racism. What is all this? An attempt, a failed attempt to divert real issues. Won't work. The world has seen what was going on. The world knows racist abuse was hurled. So however much you try to cover up has never worked. So if these things are done, and now with stump microphones, these things will be amplified, won't work because like the way you are talking. Yeah.
Boria, I've got a quick question for you.
All these talks about...
Dave, give me 1 second. I remember
Sure.
when we met at the MCG, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you had mentioned that you're quite close with Michael Clark. And, knowing him as a Australian captain, a very successful one, he won that World Cup. And I'm assuming knowing sort of Australian cricket culture and all your years of watching the game, is there a systemic problem? They come out with this documentary, which now appears to be more of a PR exercise than anything else. Maybe that's not the case, and maybe this is an aberration, but there's got to be some line drawn between gamesmanship and banter versus sledging and ugliness on a cricket
Of course. Yes, I do know Michael Clark very well. And I do know that there is a systemic problem which they wanted to address. They're still fighting that battle. They're fighting that demon. And I think Sydney has undone the effort to a degree. So they will again go overboard in trying to correct that. So Australian cricket is caught in this between the devil and the deep sea. They tried to do it under JL. The documentary tried to show that, this whole thing about putting it on the walls of the dressing room and reaching out to fans and outreach and all that. And then this happened. Now, when the racist abuse was being hurled in a stadium of 55,000 with only 9,000 people, every word can be heard. Why didn't the Australians stand up? Why didn't Steve Smith do a Virat Kohli and do what he did in the World Cup? Why didn't he do it? He should have done it. So you want to change your image, you do concrete action. You don't play to the gallery and do posturing, because posturing will eventually be caught. So Australian cricket is fighting its own demon of trying to resurrect its image, and Sydney has done them no good, has done them no good whatsoever. So there's no question that they will be under incredible pressure in Brisbane. Will they be good boys? Will they be more determined to win the series? What is the line between banter and sledge? What will they do? Because you do need banter. You do. I mean, you need to fire yourself up, because if you don't, then you are not playing the cricket that you've learned, over last 30 years. But at the same time, now you have dug yourself into a hole. So people are watching you like, under a microscope. So every word said by Tim Payne will now be amplified, even if it's a straight sentence. That Steve Smith's case is a perfect case in point. That is again sort of put himself in a corner. You don't need to. You are perhaps the world's greatest test batsman of the current era. Why do you want to make silly things and make yourself look silly? You're such a great run scorer. Restrict yourself at that. I give it to Steve Smith that he wasn't cheating. But why would you do it? So the Australian cricket team now, I think, is caught between the devil and the deep sea. They also have IPL contracts to safeguard, and these are important contracts. Anyone says these are not important contracts is a fool. So you've got multiple $1 million riding on the line, and that means imaging in India. So you've got to safeguard a lot. So it's not going to be easy for them either.
Devendra, it's like we've talked about it before. It's oftentimes it's the tone and the intent behind the communication that separates it from banter and becomes sledging. What's your you had a question there?
Yeah, I had a question. In fact, to follow up, Boria just covered it. I was going to talk about the IPL contracts. Everybody talks about, the Australian cricketers softening up when it comes to facing Indians these days, because they have IPL contracts to protect and perhaps a captain to impress at the other end. But the moment you see, a situation getting difficult, all of a sudden, the true character is what comes, to the fore. And that's what we see with the Australians. All of a sudden, the disciplined Australians will become rowdy with one incident, under pressure. So I think a lot of ex-cricketers, Australian cricketers, speak good things when they are behind the camera, when they're talking on camera, commentating perhaps. But they've all done this in the past, right? We've seen the likes of Michael Slater, Mark Waugh. Mark Taylor was perhaps a true gentleman. But apart from that, historically, Boria, what do you think? I mean, it's in the genes of Australian cricketers, right? I mean, where they know they have to play aggressive, and perhaps they keep crossing the line, and they call it sledging, and nothing more than that.
You see, after this racist incident, David Warner publicly apologizes to Mohammad Siraj. I think that was an act of courage. Nathan Lyon has publicly said it. Justin Langer has said it. So it was good to see. That's why I said it's a collective movement. David Warner publicly apologizing to the Indian team and saying he he expects better from his home crowd is certainly something heartening. To answer the question, I don't think we can single out people. At the same time, yes. I mean, take Ricky Ponting. And here it again becomes an ethical question. You are the coach of the Delhi Capitals, and you're a legend, no doubt. You coach Ajinkya Rahane, Ravi Ashwin, Prithvi Shaw, and a lot of these boys. And you then say, Rishabh Pant, and then you then say, India will be bowled out for 200. Now, what does this say? Do you really respect these boys? Do these boys or will these boys really be able to respect you in the same manner when they meet you in the dressing room 2 months down the line? Is this conflict? Is this ethical? Lines are blurred. I would be quite taken aback. I mean, I was, and I would be quite sort of cagey when I come to coach the Delhi Capitals, because you've said these things about these boys, and they are your boys, for God's sake, because you will spend 3 months with them, 4 months with them. Should you commentate? Do you need the money? Again, these are India to be bowled out for 200. And again, he's come out and said, oh, he got it wrong. But that's different. To get it wrong and to own up is good. But where is the respect? You are talking about 4 of your boys who are part of this team. And they will spend, so mentally, these boys will know that what Ricky Ponting thinks about them, right? Now your coach thinks you're not good enough. You're a chicken. You don't have the heart to stand up in a test match. How will you feel? So these are very important questions which have not been addressed, is what I would say. And these questions need to be addressed. That Indian boys, Ravi Shastri, Bharat Arun, not allowed to coach. Ricky Ponting allowed to coach, going back to Australia, can join the Australian test team, was advisor or whatever during the Ashes. Now, how come international coaches, Mike Hesson was allowed? How come international coaches or physios are allowed and our own boys are not? Why is it that, okay, Ravi Shastri's got enough money, I understand. Why is it that an Indian physio will not be allowed to be part of an IPL team, whereas an international physio from another team can come and be part of it? How many Indian coaches have you seen in the Big Bash? How many Indian coaches have you seen in the New Zealand T20? How many Indian coaches have you seen in other leagues in the world? Do you think we are not good enough? Why is it that you've got to resort to? Explain to me how Craig McMillan can become a fielding coach of a Kings 11 Punjab. Craig McMillan, fielding coach? It is as if, because whoever comes as the head coach will bring an entourage. Is it justified? Why will our trainers, physical conditioning coaches, bowling coaches, etc., not get jobs in IPL teams? Why? Why is it that we've got to get people from outside? No disrespect to them, disrespect to us, because we don't value our own people.
Boria, I think that's an issue that we've discussed amongst all of us quite a bit. I feel like an Indian coach. Why was Gary Kirsten or John Wright more like? Why would they? Why would all the players listen to them more so than say an Indian coach? It's just it's inherent in us. We have a slight I want to say it better, but an affinity for the white skin. We seem to think that if we bring in coaches from outside.
Then you are racist. Then you are racist in a different sort of way. Then you are allowing entitlement of skin color to influence your understanding of the world. That is entitlement.
Don't you think that is actually the reason why all these?
If that is the reason, protest against it. Stand up to it. Because, and as I said, I've never. When I was a student in Oxford, sort of overawed by this? No. Yeah, I mean, I didn't protest. Why? Because I was scared of violence. That somebody would bring a wine bottle and break it on my head while coming back at 11 o'clock from London to Oxford. That was the scare. Otherwise, on the road, if somebody comes and says something to me, I would hold him by the collar and bash him. Simple as that. Something happens to me, something happens to me. Big deal. You question my parentage. You question my skin color. You will get away with it. No, you won't. Well, you might be stronger than me, but I will protest. Simple as that.
That's a great segue, I think, to our next topic. And actually, the one thing I did want to say to add to your point on Ricky Ponting is, if he's saying that they're not going to score 200, what does that say about his own coaching ability? Next topic kind of being your thoughts on who's going to play. It's on everyone's mind. Is Bumrah going to play? Is Ashwin entirely fit? Mayank Agarwal also got a knock in the nets. What's your thought on the likely 11? And, maybe we can start with Jasprit Bumrah.
Okay, last few minutes because I've got to go in another 5 minutes. So I will, yeah. So Bumrah's unlikely. Even if he plays, I will give him a 10% chance of playing. And if he does, he will play with a pretty serious injury. Let's put it like that. And for a fast bowler, an abdomen strain is not like a sore foot. It is a serious injury. I was speaking to Sean Tate yesterday, Deepdas Gupta yesterday, Akash Chopra yesterday, multiple cricketers yesterday, and everyone pointed out to me from a cricketing logic, you cannot risk a national treasure like Bumrah. You've got the World Test Championship on the line, you've got the England series on the line, you cannot risk him. If India does, it will be a big chance taken, big risk taken. More because at Brisbane, at the Gabba, I would expect you're going with 7 batsmen. So you will have Saha as keeper batsman. Now, if you're going with 7 batters and 4 bowlers include a Bumrah. Something happens to him, it's an abdomen strain. Something can happen because he'll put pressure. then you're reduced to 3 bowlers. And out of the 3 bowlers, Ravi Ashwin's not 100%. So what are you doing to the team? You are going to take a big, big chance if you try that. We've got to see what happens, but it's a big, big risk. Number 2, Ravi Ashwin will play is what I know, should play. He had back spasms, but he's okay, or he will play. Rishabh will play. I think Shardul will play for Ravi Jadeja. And I think Mayank, if he's okay after that knock in the nets, will play for Hanuma Vihari. That's what I know. I think India will go in with 7, given the nature of the Gabba pitch. So Rishabh might well play as a specialist batsman with Saha keeping. And because you don't have anyone. If you had KL Rahul, he would slot in. You don't, unfortunately, have KL. Your opening combo won't change. So it might well be that if Mayank plays, he's slotted at 3 and then Puji at 4 and Rahane at 5 and Pant at 6. So everyone drops down 1. That's how I see the team forming in Brisbane.
Interesting. I would have thought Mayank comes in at 6 and they keep the top 5 as is.
Not a bad idea because he can still take the second new ball. But I think that might well be that, each of them drop down. But the way the idea that you gave is also good because you have Pant at 5, who's a left-hander. Then you have somebody who's a right-hander again, rather than having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all right-handers, which allows building of momentum from the Australian bowlers, same line, same channel. So that also is a good idea that you break that and you have a left-hander thrown in and then you get a right-hander in again. So that's again something to be considered.
Interesting. Final thoughts, maybe, since you have about a minute. What do you think is going to happen? Your call on the test match result in the Gabba.
See, you really want sort of an objective, candid call. If Australia doesn't win, it'll be surprising with this team. And Australia has its full side. They've not lost a test match in Brisbane for the last 30 odd years. India is battered and bruised. But in this series, we have seen miracles happen. If India pull off a draw, day 2, day 3, day 4, I'm told there's weather. So there will be rain. There will be curtailment. Wow. There will be, from what I was seeing that Brisbane day 1's good, day 2, day 3, day 4, there's a problem. If all of these things come together and if India somehow sustains or pulls off a draw and manages to get out 1-1, this will go down in history as one of the greatest series that India has played. I still think if you play fantasy sport, you give Australia a 6-5 team or a 7-4 team, but don't rule India out because these boys have shown time and again that they are mentally as tough as anyone ever played the game. And sport is 60% mental, 40% physical, as we all know. With a little bit of luck, let's finish it on this line. Rohit Sharma, 14-day hard quarantine, not a single tour game, turns up and plays 52 overs of the new ball. 52 overs of the new ball. Sensational. If he puts his hand up again, Cheteshwar puts his hand up again, Ajju puts his hand up again, we'll see what happens in Brisbane, but definitely Australia start favourites.
Fantastic. I'm backing a big 100 from Shubman Gill. All right, boys. Thanks a lot, Boria. That was unbelievable stuff. Candid and very clear cut. Really appreciative views. And here are the fans in blue. We would love to stay in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.